Welcome to Construction Champions Podcast, where we are burning the house down and rebuilding it twice a week. I'm your host, Rod Nussbaum, and I am here to help you become the champion that you're meant to be. Along with our amazing guests along the way, we will provide you with the resources, the latest and greatest. You will sit down with disruptors in the construction industry. And my goal from day one has always been to change the mindset around the construction industry. No more where we let the 3% of bad apes dictate the entire reputation of.
It's your host, Ron Nussbaum, and we're here for another amazing episode of Construction Champions Podcast, where we're burning the house down so we can rebuild it. Professionally, personally, we are going after changing the construction industry forever. That's why we bring on amazing guests, just like today. I'm super excited for our guest. We're going to have an amazing conversation. Blima, it is great to have you here with us today.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
I am excited for you to be here as well and share your knowledge with the construction industry. Why don't we get started with you telling all the champions out there a little bit about yourself, what got you here to today, what excites you about the construction industry?
Okay, let's get started. So my name is Blima Troy, and I am the founder and CEO of the Designers Group. We are an interior design firm dedicated to really improving and making the lives better of the people that use the spaces we design. Our motto is actually designing with purpose, creating a better world. So we're all about doing that, and in any way that we can make people's lives better, that's what really gets us going. That's what gets us excited. And we're in so many different industries just doing exactly that.
I love it. Doing stuff with purpose is some of the best work you can possibly do. So I love that. So we're going to dive right in there. I'm going to ask the $1 million question, which is, what makes a construction champion?
That's a great question. There are so many different ways to be a champion, but for us, it's about having a vision and being able to execute it. So many people have great ideas and so many people want their spaces to be amazing. But what we really excel at is coming up with the best solution for a space and being able to implement that. And we're so excited about doing that. And we really see people using our spaces and their lives are really better. And that's what a champion is, being the best at what you do and people knowing about it.
I love it. It does matter, because if you are the best at what you do and no one knows about it, then are you really the best? So I love how you started that when you were talking about having a vision and being able to execute on it. I think there can be a lot of disconnect in the construction industry. Either we're really, really good at executing and we have no vision, or we have all vision and don't know how to get there. So when you're helping design these spaces, set that stuff up, how do you work through that for, say, somebody that has a huge vision but doesn't know how to get there?
I always say being a designer is kind of like being a therapist. You have to hear what your client is saying without them actually verbalizing it, because they know certain things or have certain visions for what they want, but that's not actually what they want to see. And I've seen that so many times where they tell us they want something and we'll do exactly what they say. And then they're like, hey, this is totally not what I wanted. And then we come up with what we thought they wanted, and that is exactly what they imagined. So we really take the time before we start a project to hear what the client has to say, and we read between the lines. So that's really where we start. And then we come up with a concept and really work through the concept. It takes us time, and we always have a team working on it. So it's not just one person, it's different people being able to collaborate together and come up with the best solution for the space. And then we have super detailed drawings and spec lists and just direction for the construction team to follow so they could actually implement. And that's what's so important, not just having the ideas and coming up with a concept, but putting it down in some sort of instruction format, which for us, it's the drawings and the spec list, but so that the team that will be doing the execution can actually execute properly.
Awesome. I mean, one of the things that you're talking about, there's one of the hardest things when you talk about taking that customer vision and actually being able to make it work in a construction project, in anything, because we all know like what's actually practical and what actually works a lot of time isn't what the homeowner has in mind. So, I mean, how do you have those conversations with your customers when their way that what they want just isn't going to work, but you know how to build and design what exactly they truly want? How do you bridge that gap?
I always believe the best way to do that is open communication. And we're all about that because if we know something's not going to work, we want to let the client know ahead of time so they don't get their hopes up or they don't think that something can happen and it actually can't. So we do this before we even sign the contract. We want to make sure that we're all on the same page and there are no surprises later. And when I say no surprises in construction, there are always surprises. So we want to minimize the surprises that there are and just really work together as a team. And that's so important for us. We want to all be on the same page because there's so much that goes into a construction project that we want to try to minimize the issues that will come up. And part of that is really communicating at all times. Like there is a lead designer on every project who is there from the initial concept to completion to make sure that there's that person to reach out to whenever the client has a question, whenever an issue comes up, just so that we do have that communication and that they know that we're here to really give them the space of their dreams.
That's amazing. Because communication is what really matters on projects. It can be really underutilized and looked at as like just be open, be honest. Like this is not going to happen that way, but this is how we can do it in a way that we know would be a lot better than what you could even imagine. So for all, a lot of our listeners are contractors and builders. They work with people just like you on these projects. What advice can you give them to be better at doing that? Because I know relationships between designers, architects, the contractors, that can get strained at some points in time because everybody is trying to advocate for the customer in a different way. And I think we should be able to all collaborate. But what's some of the advice that you have when you're working with those clients? If you could tell the contractors and builders out there anything that would make your job easier and make their job easier, what would that be?
I always say that we're a team. And we've had this issue come up where a contractor is working on a project with a client and they want to get the client to feel like they're on their side. So they'll kind of put down the designer or blame something on the designer or on any of the other vendors. And I always tell any trades or vendors that we're working with that we're all about the relationship and we're all here for the client. So let's work together because things definitely come up and they always do. And it's about coming up with those solutions together. And we've had that time and time again where contractors or anyone else really at the beginning come into a project when they haven't worked with us before, because as soon as they start working with us, they see that this really works and happens to be one of the best way that we get clients is through the vendors and trades, like the construction teams that we work with, because they really see that we have their back. And as a result of that, they have ours. And at the end of the day, we really all are here, like you said, for the client. We want to give them the best product. So if we work together to come up with solutions with what happens and come up with ideas that can solve whatever problems do come up, then we end up having a much better result and a much better working experience. So that has definitely worked for us. And we always look for vendors and trades who are on the same page about that.
Awesome. Yeah, I love it because it is, we're all a team. Like that gets so lost. Is like literally we're all working together to create this remodel, this build, all like whatever we're doing is like we're doing it for the customer, and it's just about coming together. Now for what I find, and this is just me, what I've heard is, there's a lot of guys out there that don't use any designers. They're just in there like, hey, we spec this out, we build this, don't use any designers or anything. How do you help start to bridge the gap for guys that haven't thought about moving in that perspective, where they're going to bring in a third party to help them really do their job better, I guess would be how I would look at it.
What I believe is everyone has to do what's right for them. So a partnership between a designer and a client has to really work. Sometimes people don't work well with designers. They want to make decisions. They want to see how things play out and work that way. And other people believe in putting in that initial investment because it will cost more initially, but it always pays off. You get a better product in the end, the spaces function better, and it just feels and looks better. So obviously, as a designer, I see the value, and so do all of our clients. And sometimes I even use that as a pitch where I tell people, like, try us once and you'll see the value. And that always gets them coming back. We typically work with owners, operators, and developers who have more than one project, and they always will want us to work on more than one project for them once we do one, so they see the value. And I do think that if someone doesn't want to work with a designer, there are ways to complete a project without it. So it's a personal decision, but the value is definitely there by having someone who understands space, looking at the space that you're working on, and can really visualize how to best use it so that it functions optimally. People walk in, get the best experience in the space, and overall, from a budgetary perspective as well, can really figure out materials that can be used in the most economical way.
No, I agree with you 100% on that. When me and my wife were doing put a second story on a lake house that we had and just completely redo the whole thing, is like we had the builder, but we went and found a designer and we brought the two out and said, this is going to be the team, because like my wife knew what she wanted, and I like, I'm not the best to convey that to the builder. The builder might not understand that stuff, but if you get somebody that understands it, can put this together, and then tell the builder, help guide that project to success. Like that's how I looked at it. It was like, this took the weight off of my shoulders of having to be like, if my wife was like, well, this isn't exactly how I wanted all of this. Well, okay, I didn't convey that very well. But if you have a designer that understands that, and you can put these, Pinterest boards together and figure out exactly what this house is going to look like, that builder knows. And it makes the process so much smoother for homeowners, I think, personally, being that I've been on both sides of it. I've been there as the contractor. I've been there having the renovation done. And anytime there's that third party that is looking out for what does that design look like, or what is this finished product going to look like, it can add so much impact to that customer experience.
Yeah, it's so interesting that you say that you've been on both sides, because once I started working with clients, I really was able to see what kind of client I wanted to be, not just in the design space, but in general. When you're working with people and you see the way you act as a person and how it affects the person that is hired to do whatever it is, it makes such a difference. And working with people, I definitely see what kind of customer I want to be. So that's been a real eye-opener. Because in the past, like if I was paying someone to do something, that was, I paid them, they did their job. But Now I see how much a handwritten note or a thank you at the end of a project or all of that, it just makes such a difference. So I just thought of that as you were saying it, and it's something that I recently came up with. So just had to stick that in.
Well, yeah, it is when you're on the receiving end of services, you start to reevaluate. Like that's one of the like how BuilderComs kind of came about. It's because I've been on both ends of it. Like I've had bad customer experiences with contractors and builders, and I've been the one delivering the bad customer experience. I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to be able to fix this stuff. So you start to realize, and that's where we can really start to understand not just ourselves, but our customers and what they go through. And I think too many guys, they always just fix stuff themselves instead of just saying, hey, that's not really what I do. I'll have somebody come out here and do that. And then they get that experience of what it's like to work with somebody else in the industry. And it can completely change your perspective on what you do every day.
For sure.
So in the design space, I know this is the first time I've ever had a designer on here. So if I ask some questions that seem pretty basic, it's because I'm trying to get everybody out here to learn about this. What are the fundamentals of a designer on a project? Like what is the stuff that you're responsible for that contractor or builder no longer have to worry about?
Well, every project could be slightly different. So it depends what the scope of the designer is. We can come into our project anywhere from where they haven't even selected a site yet, or all the way at the end when a space is built out and they want to reconfigure or make changes. So there really is so many different parts of a scope of a designer. We typically like to come in at the beginning of a project and really work with the client to figure out how best to utilize what their vision is for the people who will be using the space. So for example, over COVID, we worked with a client who was starting an urgent care brand, and we worked with them on the branding as well, because we are a creative team, and we were looking at how will people experience this space when they come to an urgent care. And what we came up with was that why, when you get a massage or a facial, is that a luxury experience? Well, when you go get stitches, that's an anxiety-ridden time that everyone just really does not enjoy. So we approached the branding as well as the design of the space from a hospitality perspective, like a spa. And it's interesting because when they had the grand opening for the urgent care, the first location, there's like a bunch of locations. I was there and I heard they brought city officials. It was very exciting. And I heard one of them say to the other, hey, this feels like a spa. And I actually walked over to them. I said, did someone pay you to say that? Because that was our vision. And being able to really execute on that, it's all about the experience. Like we had like a good smell in the vents, so that you walked in, it felt upscale. The finishes were durable and didn't absorb, but as well, they had that upscale feel. And just everything was really, that's how we approached it. And that's when I talk about design, that's what it really is. It's the experience of the people who will be in the space and how we can make that happen, engaging all of the five senses.
Yeah, no, it definitely is that because that's what you specialize in. So it makes it a lot easier. I'll say, like, from my perspective of one of the things I think having all of this, like having the design done prior as beforehand is it saves on delays, and it saves on it saves time and money, even though you're making an initial investment. But shit always happens during a construction project. But if you get everything with your customer figured out beforehand, so you don't have to be waiting. So many guys are like, they're waiting on deadlines for customers to pick out colors, to do this stuff. It's delaying the project, which costs time and money. But when you take the time to have all that designed out and laid out, like, what's happening. The customer knows. It's going to make you to be able to be more of an effective builder, an effective contractor, because you have all the colors, all the cabinet, all the stuff. All you got to do is just put it in.
Yeah, and that's why I said minimize surprises, because there still will be those surprises, but as long as we're doing our part to get everything in order before the project starts.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I love what you're doing. I think the construction industry, this is what we need to do, is come together and start to incorporate more designers in what we do. And what it would do is it creates a greater customer experience. So I love that you're out there doing that. You're revolutionizing it, especially with these urgent care centers. It sounds like that's pretty amazing. I've never been in an urgent care center that felt like a spa personally. Present would be more of a term I would use for that.
Yes,
But
we'll definitely have to come to your area and build them out there, but right now they're just in New York and New Jersey.
awesome. Well, for all the construction champions out there, if they wanted to reach out to you, connect with you, follow you, do any of that, where is the best places for them to do that?
The Designers Group, that's the name of the firm. So on all platforms, Instagram, LinkedIn, our website is thedesignersgroup.com, Facebook, the Designers Group, across the board. So you can Google that and take it from there.
Awesome. And are you guys nationwide? Do you guys work with contractors and builders nationwide, or just in the New York, New Jersey area?
We do. We work out of 3 offices, Toronto, New York, Miami, and we have projects throughout the US and Canada.
Awesome. I love it. So full service, entire country, Canada. That's awesome. So
Mhm.
thank you for taking the time and being on the show today.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure chatting, and I look forward to working together.
Awesome. All right, construction champions, another amazing episode where we covered a topic that could save you tons of time and money. And that's just by having a designer out there. Okay, so to pre-reference this, I was in the gym like 30 days ago talking to a builder that is local to here, and they build houses in 4 months. Like that is their thing. But they do all this work prior. Like they have a designer. They put all of this stuff together. So he said, when we go pull that foundation, all the decisions are made. We can throw this house up. He's like, I don't understand how all these other builders in the area make any money. He's like, they're just that, like, the builds take a year. And he said, you know what it is? It's because they're waiting on homeowners to make decisions that they should have already made. So by being proactive, when they break ground and pull a foundation, he's like, I know it's going to take me 4 months. Like that is what their turnaround is on these houses because they're proactive on the front side. So think about that. And we always talk systems and what you can do. Imagine if you knew going into your builds what this was going to look like, what the design was. The homeowner already picked out the cabinet color, the countertops color. You don't have to worry about all that. How good and how efficient and how fast could you really build that house? I think that's a great question to go ask yourself. And that's a great reason to look at working with designers and bringing in people. So it's not just you having this conversation with the homeowner, because you probably don't understand what they want. And the homeowner probably don't understand the language that you're using about what exactly you're going to build anyhow. So construction champions, make sure you go out, join our